Well, when I took the job, I'd certainly heard a lot of criticism of him, but I've been a long-time official in Republican administrations in the national security field. I felt the United States was under enormous challenge in a wide variety of areas around the world. I thought I could make a contribution. I thought I could help make the overall process more regular, and that would be helpful to the country as a whole and the philosophy and direction and security of the country that I believed in. I think a lot of other people joined the administration with that same approach, and a lot of people have left the administration realizing that we were wrong.
It's already very clear, even in talking to you, that you didn't exactly enjoy the relationship with Donald Trump. National Security Advisor is a big job. Did your ego get the better of you in taking another big job in government in spite of what you felt about Trump?
Look, I don't doubt that I made plenty of mistakes, and maybe I made more than my share of mistakes, but I did have a very clear idea who the boss was. I understood, and I said when I was at the White House, I was the National Security Advisor, not the National Security Decision Maker.
Why is Mike Pompeo hanging on as Secretary of State, given that you write that he once described Trump as, quotes, full of shit?
Well, I don't know myself. I don't think it's in his own interest, but as I say, each of us who worked in the administration had to make a personal decision about how long they would stay. I think Mike has higher political ambitions, and perhaps he sees being tied to Trump as beneficial. If that's what he feels, I feel sorry for him.
Well, that's very kind of you, because he doesn't feel sorry for you. He tweeted recently, "Your final role is that of a traitor who damaged America by violating your sacred trust with its people." That's quite a thing to say.
Well, it mimics what Trump himself has said. I think actually I am true in faith to the Constitution and the American people by laying out for them the truth about Donald Trump.
Didn't he tell you at one point that he wanted to win the Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, he thought that he should. He looked at Obama, who won it after 9 months of office, and I'm quite candid to say I don't think Obama deserved the Nobel Peace Prize for that, and I don't think Trump deserved it either. But he seriously thought that he should get it. He would say to me and many others, go on television and say I should get the Nobel Peace Prize. That was one of the many reasons I didn't spend a lot of time on TV. I just couldn't honestly say that. But in his own mind, he was a legend.
You say an extraordinary thing, which is that Trump's pattern of obstruction of justice was a way of life.
He had a proclivity to deal with foreign authoritarian leaders in ways that I've never seen any other president behave, offering concessions on law enforcement matters and other issues, not asking anything in return, I think it was mostly a personal favor. This is part of the problem with the decision by the House Democrats only to focus on Ukraine. They wanted it, in effect, quick and dirty. It would have taken time to go further, and they didn't want to do that because they were afraid it would interfere with the Democratic presidential nomination process. I just thought it was malpractice, and this is another aspect of it.
Should he have been impeached, and if so, what for?
Well, I think had I been in the Senate, I probably would have voted to convict him. And the offense in Ukraine, and I think potentially in some of these other areas too, I don't claim to know all the facts, but what was a high crime or misdemeanor in my view was the use of governmental power, legitimate U.S. government power, to advance the personal political fortunes of Donald Trump. Now look, every political leader, U.S., U.K., you name it, considers political factors in making decisions. With Trump, far too often that was essentially the only factor in making decisions. And I think his use of personnel outside the U.S. government to conduct his own foreign policy for his own political benefit was very harmful to the reputation of the United States and to the office of the presidency.
Did Boris Johnson, as UK Foreign Secretary, as he was when you were in the White House, did he ever change Trump's mind on anything?
Well, I think there was a sea change in the personal relationship that existed between Donald Trump and Theresa May when Boris Johnson came in. And the reason this is positive for Britain is that Trump can't distinguish between his personal relationships with a counterpart leader and the actual state of the national relationships between two countries.
So Boris Johnson did just the right thing in sucking up to him.
Well, I wouldn't describe it as sucking up to him. I've known Boris before he was Prime Minister. I think he's got a good sense of humor, and I had the sense behind those twinkling eyes he was playing Trump like a fiddle, too.
What I'm really wondering is whether the advantageous trade deal that was promised to Britain in the event of Brexit will ever come about, because maybe he never meant it anyway.
I've been a strong believer in Brexit for philosophical reasons. I thought it was extraordinarily important, obviously, for the UK, but I think for the United States as well, as we look at the structure of the international system. I wanted Brexit to succeed. I thought both countries made the mistake of not advancing the trade negotiations earlier and further that they could have. I don't dispute there are going to be some tough trade negotiations to get a bilateral deal. That's the nature of trade. But I think it's very important for both countries that Brexit succeed.
Another 4 years of Donald Trump will be a danger to the Republic. Specifically, what?
His decisions don't form a coherent pattern, and I think therefore they could be one thing one day and another thing the next. That's dangerous, and I think even though some of his decisions turned out to be correct, like getting out of the Iran nuclear deal, there's no guarantee that the next day will be as lucky.
In turn, Donald Trump describes you on Twitter as a washed-up creepster, lowlife who should be in jail for disseminating for profit highly classified information. What's your response? I see you smiling.
Look, that language is childish, it's demeaning to the office of the president, but it's all too common, and I'm just not going to respond to it.
And how would you respond to those who say, rather than risk your future by trying to impeach the president, you chose to take $2 million and write a book?
No, it's just absolutely wrong. If I wanted to make a lot of money, I never would have gone into the government to begin with.
John Bolton, thank you very, very much for talking to us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.